Namaskar, welcome, and a very good evening to all the viewers watching us live on YouTube channel of Chamber for Service Industry. And this particular webinar, which is powered by Digital Inspirational Lab, making education and skills relevant, and Feast Here Forum, which is the forum of educators and skill providers of tourism, hospitality, events, research, and entrepreneurship. Together, our efforts is to empower service industry. And when we talk about service industry, tourism, hospitality, and aviation is one of the major important component of this particular industry. Every time in the past few weeks, we are deliberating, we are discussing, we are inviting experts, educators, professors, scholars, skill providers, researchers in this particular field. And to continue this journey, today we have with us Dr. Manisha Seal. She is an associate professor, Department of Tourism and Travel Management, Jyoti Nivas College, and college affiliated to Bengaluru University from Bengaluru, one of the very prestigious college for girls education. And today she is with us to talk on to rural tourism and the sustainable development goals and Indian perspectives. When we talk about sustainable tourism, and if we miss to talk about rural tourism, there's some kind of a gap which we are not considering while talking about sustainable development. So to cover this gap, she is today with us to talk more onto rural tourism because India lives majorly in rural areas even today. And this, as the photo says, it's the weather, the condition, the calmness, and the atmosphere, the ambience of rural places, they are beyond words. So let's go to Dr. Manisha Seal and talk more about this particular aspect of rural tourism and sustainable development goals in perspective to India. And let's just see what she has to discuss today, what she has to tell today. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome the guest for the evening, Dr. Manisha Seal. Ma'am, a very good evening. And we are grateful that you have given your time to us and you have come on the platform. The entire platform is yours. Welcome.
Very good evening to one and all present here who is watching this show on live. And I am very thankful to the organizers for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to present my viewpoint on my favorite topic, rural tourism and the sustainable development goals and Indian perspective on this prestigious platform. Thank you so much. Myself, Dr. Manisha Seal, from the Department of Tourism and Travel Management, here to present my piece of knowledge about this particular concept. I'm going to share my presentation over here. I hope it is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
Okay. So this is the presentation is all about. The tourism, rural tourism and the sustainable development goals and Indian perspective. Okay, so now the concept of rural tourism. Why rural tourism? Okay, so why I have chosen rural tourism? Because I would like to start with the statement, quotation given by once Mahatma Gandhi: "The soul of India lives in its villages." And he also stated that the future of India lies in its villages. So therefore, you may match that particular statement given by Mahatma Gandhi with this particular statistics which I have collected, which says that 65% of country's population still resides in villages as per the census 2022-23. India has more than 66 lakhs villages still, and a maximum number of people are living in villages. So countries' development, as per my opinion, lies in rural development. More we are able to bring rural development, more the country is able to earn gross domestic product, and we are able to, have a economic empowerment. Okay, so as per my opinion, rural tourism can be a device, can be an instrument, can be an equipment or a strategy we can use for bringing rural development. Okay, so further, I would like to have a have a proper understanding of rural tourism. What is rural tourism all about? Okay, so rural tourism, which takes place in a countryside, which is a dispersed area far from city. Okay, mostly the rural destinations, will be close to nature. It has got natural ambience. It has got natural resources, which we refer it as natural tourism resources. Which will be the major attraction to visit. Okay, now the rural associate various types and forms of tourism. It can be projected through all these types of tourism, what I have shown in this particular slide. So let us start with agri-tourism. Okay, so agri-tourism is associated with agriculture. Okay, so agriculture being a primary occupation in rural area, so it is also a tourist attraction. Okay, so in agri-tourism, we talk about, cultivation, the process of cultivation, what is the process of cultivation, specifically focusing on organic farming. We also exhibit the irrigation process, consumption of various organic food items, which we cannot find in our cities. So we understand, as an individual, as a tourist, we will have a curiosity about rural life, especially knowing about the agricultural processing, how farming activities takes place, how organic farming is done, how what is the irrigation process is followed. So all that can be exhibited in agri-tourism, which is a part of rural tourism. So this is how we project rural tourism. Okay, rural tourism can also be associated with ecotourism. Okay, ecotourism is a principle or an approach that we follow, which is associated in with rural tourism, because rural tourism is more inclined towards nature. Okay, it showcases more natural beauty, whether it is a sprawling vegetation around, whether it is breathtaking view of breathtaking view of wildlife around, then a particular type of landscape that we are looking at. So conservation and preservation of natural ambience, natural beauty, is one of the significant aspect we are looking into over here. So that is what ecotourism advocates on. So every stakeholder who participates in tourism, specifically they visit rural area, or they visit any nature based tourist destination, they are supposed to follow ecotourism norms, ecotourism principles. So ecotourism principles are also associated with rural tourism, because rural tourism showcases nature, natural beauty, natural ambience. Being in rural destination, being in rural tourism is all about being on nature's lap. Okay, so rural tourism can also be associated with wine tourism. Okay, so you may not find wine tourism in every rural destination. Definitely not. Okay, there are only specific destinations, specific rural areas where grape farming is done. Okay, so we also call it as vineyards, grape farm. Wherever, whichever place we undergo grape farming, a specific, a particular type of grape farming which is done. So there we refer it at that particular place. We refer it as a vineyard. So few rural areas which is known for known for the grape farming, and these grapes will be further processed, and the wines are made out of it. Okay, so there is a proper processing is done. So these wine tourism also can, therefore these wine tourism also can be associated with rural tourism. The various locations of Karnataka, rural areas of Karnataka and Maharashtra are specifically known for wine tourism. Okay, so these rural areas are very prominent rural areas focusing on wine tourism as well. Okay, apart from that, adventure tourism. Okay, rural tourism also helps in promoting adventure tourism, you know. So generally, rural tourist destination will have a specific type of landscape which will attract a particular type of adventure sports, you know, whether it is mountain area, whether it is a hilly or mountain area, whether it is a forest area, which is a destination which is more close to forest area, the destination which is more close to riverside, you know. So every rural tourist destination will have these kind of ambience, either it is close to river streams, or it may be close to the forest area, or it may be close to close to some hilly region. Okay, so the in these types of landscape, different forms of adventure sports can be performed. It can be hiking, it can be rock climbing, it can be trekking, you know. So all these kinds of activities, then if it is riverside areas, we may also follow river rafting. So these tourist activities as a part of adventure sports are performed, so it can be associated with adventure tourism as well. So rural tourism have all these kinds of attractions, all these types of tourism that it is showcasing. Okay, so now cultural tourism, rural tourism is also associated with cultural tourism. Okay, so the rural culture of a particular destination is something very unique, is something very much it's something very unique, and which represents the original culture of a particular place. So whether it is a rural fairs and festivals, whether it is a rural way of living, rural dress code, then rural cuisine, okay, traditional or vernacular houses where people will be staying. Okay, so all these are various aspects of culture, as is a part of rural culture, you know, which promotes cultural tourism. Okay, so so that is cultural tourism can also be associated with rural tourism. Okay, then heritage, you know, so our inheritance, specifically with reference to India, our inheritance lies in our rural areas. You know, so our ancestors comes there. They originated in rural areas. So our all way of living, whether it is culture, whether it is cuisine, any kind of cultural representation, and which can be viewed as a heritage in the rural destination. So heritage tourism also can be associated with rural tourism. Apart from all these, rural tourism can also be associated with sustainable tourism. There is also a concept called sustainable tourism, which will advocate on sustaining the culture, the nature of a particular place, the culture of a particular place, and also bringing economic benefits for having a better livelihood, you know, through tourism. So that is so rural tourism also reflects sustainable tourism as well. So these are all various important aspects of rural tourism that we have. Okay, so as I was mentioning about all these already, so rural heritage, which comes in the form of architecture, cultural monuments, villages, then rural life, which can be seen in craft, in handicrafts, in various rural festivals, events that we organize, homemade food, which I was talking about. Okay, so activities which I am talking about, apart from adventure sports, we have riding, fishing, hiking, cycling, and the different types of landscape which promotes tourism. Now let us have a view of rural tourism. So it is a rural tourist destination. What you can see over here, it is a very breathtaking view of a rural destination. What can be seen in terms of in terms of greenery all around. sprawling vegetation, agricultural field around can be viewed. Okay, so this is one important glimpse of our Indian rural area. Okay, so we can see vernacular houses over here, people living in huts, following a very simple way of living, which cannot be experienced in the city life. Okay, so we can see agriculture. Okay, so agricultural process is going on. Okay, so this agricultural process, the farming process can be experienced by the tourist. They will realize and understand how the farming is done in the rural areas. Okay, and they can enjoy the organic food, which I was just mentioning about. So this is how agri-tourism looks like in a rural destination. Okay, which gives you a very unique experience to the tourist. Okay, then we have this handicrafts. You can see the huge very lot of variety of handicrafts in this particular workstation. Okay, this is particular related to Anigundi. Okay, this is this particular village is very close to my heart. Okay, so in this village called Anigundi, you have these kinds of handicrafts. Okay, so these handicrafts are made out of banana fiber leaf. Okay, so these banana fiber leaf, which there is some kind of processing is done on that particular leaf, and that leaf is finally utilized for creating these kinds of art forms, art handicrafts. Okay, so and these all handicrafts are export quality handicrafts, and the tourist will come there and will purchase these handicrafts. This is a very important source of income for the local community in Anigundi, especially the women. So all the women workforce will be there. They are employed over here throughout the year, 365 days. They'll be working over here and they'll be earning their daily wages. This is how it brings economic empowerment through rural tourism. Okay, by making different types of valuable handicraft, and these handicrafts will be sold to the tourist. Okay, so now let us have a small overview about rural tourism in India as a country. Okay, so I would like to mention that there are 134 rural villages. I mean, the villages we have in India, aiming towards promotion of rural tourism, which provides a very unique experience to the tourist as on 2023. Okay, so all these 134 villages are identified by the government as one of the important, significant tourism projects. And these projects are some of them are very successfully working projects and are able to achieve that, economic empowerment in their local community. Okay, so apart from that, in a very recent scenario, maybe it's a story of last month, that India got globally recognized by United Nations World Tourism Organization by being a 54th best tourist village. Okay, this is Dodo village in Kutch region of Gujarat, which has been identified as a 54th best tourist village in as on dated 2023. Okay, by United Nations World Tourism Organization. So this is how Indian rural tourism is recognized worldwide. Okay, so these are all some of the successful tourism projects in our country. Okay, this Sarmoli village in Uttarakhand has been recognized recently by the Government of India, Ministry of Tourism, and it has got an award of the best tourist village in India, at a gold category. So apart from that, Mana village and all Sahas farm stay Telangana, all these are various successful running tourism projects in association with a private sector, the local NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and the local community. So it is not just the government is doing doing the development. It is also equal partnership and association with all the important entities, all the important interest groups associated with rural tourism project. Okay, the without participation of the local community, there any projects cannot be success cannot be achieved. There is an involvement of private sector organization, there is an involvement of local non-governmental organizations as well, and a government organization agency will be maybe procuring finance and economic resources for running these tourism projects. Okay, so apart from all that, if you can view this particular India's map, all these are identified rural tourist villages by the government of India. You can see it is spread around the whole country, including maximum number of states of India. Okay, it is 35 in number. Okay, so that is how it is. So 30, these are all 35 recognized best tourist villages of India, which is projected by the government of India, Ministry of Tourism. Okay, so all are very successfully running rural tourism in all these areas. Okay, so apart from all that, now let us come on discuss about the topic sustainable development. My one important aspect of my presentation, other than rural tourism and rural tourism in India, the sustainable development, how rural tourism brings sustainable development, and what is sustainable development is all about. Okay, so sustainable development can be defined as an approach to the economic development of a country without compromising with the quality of environment for future generation. So this is what sustainable development is all about. So it is an approach, it is a practice that we inculcate, that we learn, and that we follow. Okay, to bring economic development, the aiming to bring economic development, economic empowerment in our country or a particular region without compromising on on the quality of nature, on the quality of environment, without degrading, destroying the environmental ecosystem, environment or ecosystem surroundings of a particular ecosystem. Okay, which must be sustained for the future generation. Okay, so now how sustainable development can be associated with rural tourism. Yeah, rural tourism can be utilized as a strategy. Rural tourism can be utilized as a strategy to bring sustainable development. Okay, so it can be a strategy, it can be a device, it can be an instrument that we may follow to bring sustainable development of a particular destination, destination for that matter, that is a rural area. Okay, so rural tourism can create prospects for economic development in rural areas. Okay, so through rural tourism, we are able to create huge amount of employment opportunities, employment opportunities for different section of the society in a rural area specifically, which I am focusing on. Okay, men and women equally can get employment opportunities, can be employed in tourism sector, in hospitality sector, which is also associated with tourism, in the rural areas. Okay, so not only employment opportunities, but also entrepreneurial opportunities, so tourism entrepreneurial opportunities, how you can start your tourism entrepreneurial opportunities, which will bring economic prosperity, which will bring economic empowerment to you. For example, you can have your own homestay. You have a village in a rural area. You live in a particular village, and a part of your room, a part of your house can be given on rent to a tourist, which is called as homestay. Okay, which requires no investment. Okay, so and which requires no MBA degree. So you can become an entrepreneur without any investment, without going through any kind of entrepreneurial development training program. Okay, so you can be an entrepreneur like that. You can have your own entrepreneurship, tourism entrepreneurship. You can have homestay or homestay business. You can offer homemade food and homely accommodation services to the tourist. Okay, you can also have your own catering unit. Okay, you can make rural cuisine, different types and forms of rural cuisine that you offer to the tourist who will be willing to come to that particular tourist destination and would like to taste the rural cuisine. Okay, so these are all small entrepreneurial opportunities that can be offered. You can make your own handicraft. You can showcase your own artistic performing art, folk music, folk dance, and entertain the tourist, so that your culture, your folk art forms are also preserved and conserved, and you are also getting your livelihood. So these are all various prospects of employment opportunities and entrepreneurial opportunities, tourism entrepreneurial opportunities that you get. Okay, so that's what rural tourism does. Okay, so it helps in conservation of natural ambience in a rural setting. Okay, so rural tourism, as one of the important aspects of sustainability is also conservation and preservation. Okay, one important aspect of sustainability or sustainable development is having a livelihood for livelihood or economic development for future sustainability. Apart from that, another aspect of sustainability is conservation and preservation of nature and culture, both. Okay, so natural ambience, whether it is waterfalls, whether it is whether it is forest areas, uh, uh, you know uh, so different farming land, the different agricultural field where the crops are being grown, cultivation process is done. So all these are natural tourism resources which tourists would like to experience, which tourists would like to view, visit. Okay, and experience. And a part of experience also includes consumption of organic food items, okay, which you may not get in city life. Okay, so all these are unique experiences that you get in rural areas, which advocates on conservation and preservation of natural ambience, of natural ecosystem of a particular tourist destination, rural tourist destination. Okay, rural tourism also helps in promoting rural culture. So rural culture can be conserved and preserved in order to showcase, in order to exhibit it to the tourist as a tourist attraction. Okay, so whether it is a rural fair, whether it is rural festival, rural folk art forms, rural music, then different types of handicrafts that you make, which represents your rural culture. So all that can be conserved and preserved. So this is what sustainable development is all about. This is how we associate rural tourism and sustainable development. Okay, so let us go ahead. Now, let us come to sustainable development goals. Okay, the sustainable development goals are universal calls, to action to end poverty, protection of the planet called Earth, and improve the lives and prospects of everyone everywhere. Okay, so this is what sustainable development goals are all about. So let me give more more reflection on this particular point. Sustainable development goals are there are such 17 number of goals or objectives which are identified by the United Nations for its member countries. Okay, so it has so they had a particular conference, international conference, international meet in the United Nations General Assembly, where they have identified these 17 sustainable development goals which must be achieved by 2030. So it is the 2030 agenda. These sustainable development goals were identified in the year 2015. In the General Assembly meet, and it must be achieved by 2030. So in this 15 years of time span, these sustainable development goals must be achieved by all the member nations worldwide. It is not only the developed country, it underdeveloped and developing countries all throughout the worldwide. Whoever is the member of United Nations must be able to achieve all these important 17 sustainable goals. Okay, so let us have a reflection of these sustainable development goals. Okay, so sustainable development goals, these are the 17 sustainable development goals what we have over here on the screen. Now, to be more clear about these sustainable development goals, the first sustainable development goals what we have is no poverty. Okay, so by 2030, there should not be any poverty in the world. Okay, in the nook and corner of the world, there should not be any poverty. So poverty must be eradicated from this world. So that is the first sustainable goal that must be achieved by all the member nations by 2030. Okay, so next sustainable goal is zero hunger. Okay, if you do not have poverty, you may definitely able to achieve zero hunger, where no deprived section of the society at a global level will be hungry. Okay, sustainable development goal number 3, good health and well-being. Specifically, the vulnerable section of the society or a deprived section of the society should be having good health. Okay, so promotion of good health and well-being, especially to the to the children below 12 years, infant, and the senior citizens. At a global level should be able to seek better health condition and well-being. Okay, so fourth sustainable development goal is quality education. So there should be it advocates on quality education. So each and every individual is entitled to receive quality education matching at international quality standards by the year 2030. It is applicable to all the member nations, including the most deprived nations, the most underdeveloped and undeveloped nations as well. Okay, so gender equality, the fifth goal is about the gender equality. So there should not be any discrimination in terms of male, female, and the third gender. Okay, so everybody should be treated equally. Clean water and sanitation is the sixth sustainable development goal, where which is advocating on having clean environment and clean water, less of water pollution, and eliminating water pollution, and having a proper sanitary conditions in the rural areas, specifically in the deprived areas. So that must be achieved throughout worldwide. Okay, sustainable development goal number 7, affordable and clean energy. Okay, affordable, reliable and clean energy advocacy, advocating on affordable, reliable and clean energy, which creates no pollution, which creates no environmental degradation. So energy, probably it is a solar energy we should focus on more. Probably it is hydro energy we should be focused on more, which should be more renewable in nature. Okay, such energy must be utilized so that we are having no environmental pollution, energy which is producing no environmental pollution. So we should switch towards such energy, no petrol and no diesel. So that should be our that should be our aim in future, now onwards. Okay, decent work and economic growth. Okay, so decent work means, comfortable and respectable employment opportunities to each and every individual citizen in the world, okay, belonging to any part of the country or any part of the region in the world, and which creates economic growth for the community, for the people, for individual. Okay, the goal number 9, which advocates on industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So, more industrial development, more innovative ideas to be introduced, more better eco-friendly infrastructure to be created. Okay, reduce inequalities. Okay, reduce any type of inequalities in terms of gender, in terms of color of the skin, in terms of the sex, as I said, gender and the color of the skin, all these, any type, and economic disparities as well. So based on color, caste, creed, religion, economic disparities, must all these are the criteria based on which we see inequalities. So all that inequalities must be eliminated, okay, which looks very impossible. Sustainable cities and communities, there should be better sustainable cities and communities must be developed. With reference to sustainable cities and communities, we will be focusing on more culture of a particular community, cultural heritage of a particular community, and the city must be conserved and preserved. Okay, so responsible consumption and production, which advocates on mass production and consumption, having a better adequacy of goods and services for all the people of the world, for all the section of the society, must be getting good amount of affordable amount of goods and services for their consumption. So such number of adequate surplus number of goods and products must be produced for the people living in the world, in the global society. Okay, climate action indicates, climate change indicates global warming. So that also must be taken into consideration as a 13th social 13th sustainable development goal. Okay, so all the sustainable practices must be performed in whether it is an industry, whether it is in any sector of business. We should have more sustainable practices, which is creating no greenhouse gases. Okay, which is eliminating pollution, which is eliminating global warming as well. Okay, so even the life below water and life on land, being a 14th and 15th sustainable development goals, must be taken into consideration. So there should not be disturbance, degradation of human activities should not degrade and disturb the life below water. The water bodies must be getting a safe life and secured life without any water pollution, without any having a any kind of spillage of oil by tourist cruises, by any water vehicles, or what you say that cruise transportation into the water, that should not happen. Okay, life on land must be good enough, must be eco-friendly enough, must be healthy, not only for the human but also for the species of various species of plants and animals must be enjoying a good life on land. Okay, international peace and justice with a strong institution. Okay, so strong institution represents not the government of a country, represents the various international organizations, represents non-governmental organizations. All these are strong institutions, must promote international peace and justice. International peace, understanding, and justice without having no war. So this is the 16th goal. And the last but not the least, the partnership of for the goals. So to achieve all these goals, there should be equal partnership and participation of various stakeholders, various interest groups associated with it. Okay, should be able to collaborate with each other, like government of the countries, the international bodies, the international organizations all together must collaborate, have a partnership and participation to achieve these goals. Okay, so these are all 17 sustainable development goals that we have. Now, all the 17 goals may not be associated with rural tourism. But it may be associated directly or indirectly, it may be associated with tourism. But here I am focusing on only rural tourism. So as per my understanding, how many number of what are the sustainable development goals can be easily associated with rural tourism are. Okay, so these are the goals which we can easily associate with rural tourism. Okay, so rural tourism can be used as a device to promote rural development and may help to attain sustainable goals declared by United Nations. So goal number one, sustainable development goal number one, ending poverty. So as per my knowledge, various rural destinations, rural areas are the most deprived community live in these rural areas. The deprived community live. They will have a scarcity. They will have economic issues. Employment issues. Therefore, drifting of youth will be happening to the towns and cities, big cities. So to stop that drifting, to end the poverty in the rural areas, rural tourism can be utilized as one of the significant strategy to eradicate poverty. Okay, so generally what happens in the rural areas, we are using only agriculture as an occupation, right? So agriculture is only the primary occupation, and every individual member living in the community, will be focusing on agriculture only. So it becomes a burden for an agriculturist, to produce good quality of grains, and and also to sustain, to have economic sustainability. So to reduce the burden on agriculture, rural tourism can be introduced. So alternatively, rural tourism also can be one of the occupational opportunity for the local community other than agriculture. Okay, which may together help in ending the poverty. And agriculture is also also helps in promoting agri-tourism, which is very much associated with rural tourism. So that's how sustainable development goal number one can be achieved through rural tourism. Okay, and achieving zero hungry. Yes, through rural tourism we can achieve zero hungry when we are able to achieve no poverty, zero hungry also can be achieved. Okay, so rural development goal number 8, which I have chosen, which I think that rural tourism creates very respectable employment opportunities, very respectable employment opportunities, decent a type of employment opportunities for the local community living in the rural tourist destination, and and it helps towards economic prosperity, economic empowerment, which will bring economic empowerment through a huge amount of employment opportunities which rural tourism creates. So this goal also can be achieved. A sustainable development goal also can be achieved through rural tourism. Yeah. So sustainable development goal number 11, developing sustainable community. Okay, so tourism is able to help us, help in sustaining the community, okay, the various local community living in the rural areas, by creating variety of livelihood for them, by preserving and conserving their culture, their nature, their identity, so their culture, their way of living is all their identity. So it protects their identity, it creates economic opportunities for them, which is enough to have a sustainable community being in the rural area itself. So they do not have to mobilize, or they do not have to drift towards the big cities and towns for employment, for seeking employment opportunities. So it helps in developing sustainable community. Okay, so sustainable development goal number 13, to combat climate change and its impact. So it is one of the important sustainable development goal, which rural tourism creates a lot of awareness, lot of awareness through the concept of ecotourism and sustainable tourism, where ecotourism advocates on conservation and preservation of nature, the natural ecosystem, the natural resources available in that particular place, which advocates on the land is the land is not only for the human. The only survival of human is not important. Even the variety of species of plants and animals, which are also a tourist attraction exhibited to the tourist, also must be conserved and preserved. That's what ecotourism principle is all about. So rural tourism very much associated with ecotourism. So it helps to combat climate change issues, okay, and its impact and its negative impacts. Okay, last but not the least, sustainable development goal number 17. Okay, revitalize partnership for sustainable development. Okay, so the concept of partnership very much prevailing in tourism sector. Okay, so any kind of application of tourism plan, any kind of application of tourism development cannot take place, cannot happen when if there is no participation, there is no collaboration. Okay, so if we see that government, if we say the government is only one entity who should develop tourism, whether it is tourism or rural tourism or any form of tourism, it cannot happen. So there is a participation, equal participation or contribution from all the interest groups associated with a rural destination must be done. As I said earlier, it is not only the government, it is the involvement of the local communities of the rural tourist destination specifically. It is also the involvement of the local NGOs and the private sector organizations who can initiate, who can participate, collaborate with each other, to have a sustainable development of the rural areas through tourism. So rural tourism is always being a catalyst, rural tourism is always being a device, instrument, being an instrumental for any kind of sustainable development in the rural areas. So here I rest my presentation. I'm open to any questions if there is any.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for the presentation that you have given. Few questions I need to ask related to what we have seen, what we have heard today, the best of the topic of rural tourism and sustainable development goals. So now to ask, do you see any kind of challenges or obstacles specified to India that hinders the integration of rural tourism with sustainable development goals?
Yes, there are challenges. Okay, there are a lot of challenges. One of the biggest challenge is, I should not mention in this platform, but there is lot of uh, what do we say? There is lot of corruption. you know.
Okay.
So a lot corruption is one of the issue. Now this corruption cannot be spoken about, okay, and you cannot give any evidences, you know.
जी जी
Once we are researchers, when we are getting into research, so we cannot bring evidences of these corruptions are happening. Now
जी
what happens, we require a lot of resources, lot of support from the
जी
government in terms of availability of land, in terms of availability of, you know, capital, to foster, to, you know, to mobilize these kinds of rural tourism projects.
हम्म,
So if there is corruption, if there is, you know, government agencies who are involved into these kinds of, you know, illegal activities, it is
हम्म,
very difficult. It is one of the biggest challenge that we face
okay,
for any kind of, you know, rural tourism development or sustainable development. That is what the one challenge that we have.
okay,
You know, apart from that, uh, lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, you know. So people like, you know, very educated people, you know, not forget about illiterate or people living in, you know, rural areas who have very least knowledge, you know. The educated people only are not aware about the concept of rural tourism. You know, so they do not know the concept of rural tourism, what is rural tourism is all about.
जी
So so and what are the benefits from rural tourism, they are not aware about. So
जी
how can we expect the rural people living in rural area, having a limited education,
जी
having a limited educational background, how can we expect them to be aware? So there is a lot of non cooperation in
जी
from the local community, so no participation many times. So that is
जी
also, there are many challenges as such.
जी डॉक्टर मनीषा, इससे पहले कि मैं आपसे दूसरा क्वेश्चन पूछूं, मैम, वी वांट टू सी यू on screen, so if you can just stop share your screen and we can have you
Okay, fine, fine,
there,
fine.
then it will be more
Yes,
appropriate.
yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Now another question I would like to understand from you, your own views, like जैसे हम बात करते हैं सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट की, और हम बात कर रहे हैं सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स की भी, और उनका इम्पैक्ट रूरल टूरिज्म पे. तो इफ वी डेवलप एनी डेस्टिनेशन फॉर रूरल टूरिज्म, लेट्स से, so how we should plan the destination so that we can have a sustainable development in future also, because हमने कई ऐसी डेस्टिनेशन देखी हैं जो रूरल टूरिज्म के तौर पे डेवलप तो हुई, बट लेटेस्ट स्टेजेस पे आकर उनका भी जो एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन शुरू हो गया, वो सस्टेनेबल अप्रोच नहीं रही. So how you look onto this and what suggestions you want to tell us?
um, okay. Now there are there are a lot of conflicts over here.
जी जी
Yeah. So now the thing is, uh, you know, the various stakeholders are responsible for this. Now primarily tourist is also a stakeholder. Okay, tourists who would like to visit to the rural destination, they also expect, you know, many of tourists, when we have collected the data, we have undergone the field research, you know, we understood that, you know, many tourists what would like to have an air conditioned room. You know, they would like to stay in air conditioned room. Why there is so hot? You know, why this is hot water is not there, why there is no geyser, you know, that kind of complaints that we see, you know. So there the you know, problem starts from, you know. So in homestays, in the small huts where they are staying, they do not want to have a, you know, a genuine way of living of the people how they are living in the rural areas. You know, they want to have that comfort, luxury, what they are willing to, you know, what they are you know, all you know, are practicing always, you know. So they cannot leave their comfort and luxury, they are paying for it, they want value for money, they want you know, that kind of facilities. So in order to cater such facilities, many times, you know, most of the time, not many times, most of the times we deteriorate and degradation happens in the rural destination. You know, development, infrastructure development takes place, and the development happens beyond the carrying capacity of a rural tourist destination. You construct big roads, you construct big accommodation units which air condition. So the aesthetic beauty of the rural ambience is lost due to that. So it is the demand of the tourist most of the time, which creates this kind of issues. So there should be more, there should be awareness for the tourist as well. So tourists also must realize there should be little education and sensitization among the tourist community as well, to how you are getting, and especially benefits. You should make them understand that, if you live without if you live in natural conditions, without any, air conditioning or without any warm water, you will be more, you will have a better health, better well-being. So all these, that must create awareness among them, among the visitors as well. So that can be one of the aspect. Apart from that, the planner, tourism development planner. So whoever planning tourism in a particular rural destination should create, design, have a proper framework of development. Okay, so framework for development must be done. So you cannot go beyond this framework. So whether it is a private sector, whether it is a, government sector, or any involvement of local community, whoever wants to develop their own, hotel, or the restaurants, or homestay facility they want to provide, they cannot go beyond that framework. You have to follow these standards framework only, so that we avoid deterioration.
Right. So, so we have to keep in mind the carrying capacity and the quality of the tourists that are coming to the place and other planning aspects. Right, ma'am?
Yes.
G.
And
Another,
little bit sensitization among the tourists who are visiting the rural tourist destination specifically.
G. Got your point. Now, another question has come, ma'am. What are the important, if you can just tell us, and if there are some kind of a journals or magazines for specifically for rural tourism, are there any kind that we can follow or we can read and we can get knowledge from?
Now, specific journals, I cannot recommend for that matter. Um,
Hanji.
yeah, but there are, when you want to acquire knowledge about rural tourism or any particular concept, why we should limit our, knowledge only to journals. You can read so much. There is the whole, website is, the Google is available. You can
G.
acquire huge amount of knowledge. Only the knowledge what you are getting it, it should be proper, it should be authorized one. So you can refer to the government websites. So presently the government is doing a lot in rural tourism. There are a lot of research taken by the government institutions, government organization. So government has a Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, for rural tourism projects. They have associated with IITTM, Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management. So there are a lot of tourism projects and research projects are written by them and published on the website. So you can definitely follow that. You can definitely, seek a lot of information, knowledge about rural tourism.
Okay. One more question I want to ask you, ma'am, that nowadays we talk more about technology and digital aspects. So how you look at this particular technology and digital aspects in promotion of rural tourism in a sustainable manner? Is it good? Is it bad? It should happen or it is happening? What is your
Okay. Now, digitization, or what you say, the technology is
Hanji,
always a very good equipment if you are using it wisely. Okay,
ji,
so in rural tourism also, if we are able to use it wisely, then it can be very good equipment that, so primarily technology, ICT, information communication technology, we can utilize it for promotion, marketing, marketing and promotion. So all these rural tourist destination, people have no idea about rural tourism concept only, and
ji.
how they will know about, rural tourist destination, rural tourist villages, which I spoke about. So we can use the social media, we can use various electronic medias and websites, to create awareness. So that's how information tech and communication technology can be used. Other than that, all the mode of small facilities what we get through technology, yeah, especially you know the cash payment, we are not anywhere. What personally I am very much encouraged and very much happy about is digital Bharat is everywhere in India, even the rural areas, we use QR codes, so nobody accepts nowadays cash. I know you don't need to look for cash, you don't need to pay 25 paisa, 50 paisa, or anything as such. There was a time we had a lot of issues related to that. We never used to have change issue, money exchange. It was very difficult issue. We used to look for ATMs centers where we can go and get the ATM centers. In rural areas, you will never find ATM centers. If you have ATM centers also, there will not be any cash in the ATMs. So it used to be very difficult. So
जी,
now you have availability of Wi-Fi, you have the availability of that QR codes through which any kind of economic transaction is very much easily done. Okay, now everybody is having a social media, connected with social media. They are aware about things. Even every individual will be having a Facebook account. Okay, so all these are awareness that we are creating now. Nobody is deprived of knowledge and information, at least that I am very sure about.
जी,
You
जी,
know.
जी. So
So
thank you
definitely,
so
it is
much.
a very useful instrument, useful equipment if we use it very wisely. Useful tool. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for your views, ma'am. Thanks for your lovely presentation and thanks for
Thank
your
you so
time.
much.
Thanks for coming on our platform, and we will have more such session related to green tourism, eco tourism, and sustainable tourism in future also with you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.